Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here in Washington, participating in this nice joint workshop between CIS and Migration Research Institute. 10 minutes is a very short time, but I would like to try to keep it. So during my presentation, I would like to speak a little bit about the background of this soft underbelly of Europe, why it's a challenge for Europe as a continent, the European Union as an institution, how we can speak about the instrumentalization or weaponization of irregular migration in the southern flank of Europe, and what's the status of the phenomenon now. I think, first of all, it's very important to have a short and quick historical overview, because history matters. And it's very important that this whole region, the Mediterranean region, and both the northern and the southern shores of the Mediterranean belong to one integrated system during the Roman Empire, called Mare Nostrum, And in spite of the collapse of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century, it remained an intact economic and partially political integration until the conquest of the Arabs in the 9th century. Later colonization, European colonization, revitalized this connection, and the Second World War demonstrated the soft underbelly of Europe, called by Winston Churchill, and it was not accidental that the troops of the United States and the Allies started their campaign against Germany, not in the Western Front in Normandy, but in the soft underbelly, which was much more vulnerable for these attacks. And recently, last 3 decades, both NATO and EU concentrated on the region in the form of different partnerships and dialogue. So it's very important to keep in our mind that in spite politically now, the northern part and the southern part of the Mediterranean are divided, but in many aspects there is close integration between them. Some words about the sea borders. It's very important to underline that the protection and the defense of sea borders are much more complicated than the defense of the land borders, because it's not possible to erect any fence in the mid of the Mediterranean Sea. I brought you some numbers. The total length of the Mediterranean Sea is not so big, it's 4,000 kilometers, but if we are watching the seashores and a borderline of different countries, it's a huge, huge challenge to protect them. Just have a look for Greece, which is comparing United States. It's a small country, 100,000 square kilometers, but it has more than 13,000 kilometer long coastline, which have to be protected from illegal migrants. Actually, it's a mission impossible for both Greece, but we have a number from Italy. It's not possible to control so huge sea border areas. About the flow of irregular migration, we saw an increase in the early 20s, mainly from North Africa. And since the beginning, the blackmailing of EU or certain member states happened in this Mediterranean context. The first country which used it was Libya, and the second was Morocco. Morocco used it to get funds from the European Union, and Libya, in the 90s, was in a quarantine and was sanctioned by different countries. And Gaddafi used instrumentalized or weaponized irregular migrants to make pressure on Italy and the European Union to came out from the quarantine and became a best boy in the international system. So it's very important because the real question in this context, considering the length of this borderline and the blackmailing potential, that how EU can cooperate with these gatekeepers on the southern shore of the Mediterranean, and how we can persuade to convince them to stop of the arrivals. Sorry, just some words about the numbers. You can see the number of illegal border crossing in the European borders. Comparing with the American data, perhaps it's not so high, because at the peak in 2015, you can see it was almost 2 million. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a similar number in the case of the United States, but annually it's between 1 and 2 million. In the case of Europe, it's not so high. Last year was almost 200,000. But what is very important is the potential, that how many people were stopped and how many people are waiting for the crossing towards Europe. In Egypt, according to rough estimations, there are at least 6.5 million foreigners, and many of them want to come to Europe. In Libya, because of civil war, it's very hard to estimate, but there are between 800 and 1.5 million people. And in Turkey, just the Syrian, Iraqi, and Afghan refugees and asylum seekers altogether is 4.5 million people. So if you sum it, it's more than 10 million people who somehow would like to reach Europe, who are foreigners in this country. But it's very important also to emphasize that the whole story is not only about these asylum seekers in these countries, but also the citizens of these countries, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia. Many of them, millions of them, would like to come to Europe. And if we are checking the numbers in this illegal border crossing numbers, actually the biggest portion of people is coming not from Sub-Saharan Africa, which is a concept in Europe that now most people coming from Sub-Saharan Africa to Europe in this southern border. No, actually, the so-called transit countries from Egypt to Morocco are really the countries of origin from illegal migrants and asylum seekers. We have to underline also that according to the official estimations and official data, the Coast Guard of this nation also contribute to stop the number of illegal crossings. So I mentioned you this 200,000 people in last year, but according to rough estimation, another 200,000 people were stopped in the sea. And there are some numbers from Morocco and Libya, which were also stopped during the crossing. So this is the reason why just 200,000 people reached Europe across this lane. Some words about numbers, about the certain countries. We can observe two attitudes, some kind of stick and carrots politics toward the European Union, and some more closer cooperation. Turkey and Morocco definitely use this stick and carrot politics. If they want to gain something, then they are lifting the control of the border, which happened last year in Melilla when they just watched it, and 8,000 people reached the Spanish enclave within some hours. And it also happened in the case of Turkey in February 2020, when Mr. Erdogan decided that they won't protect anymore the border of Europe, and within days, tens of thousands of people started to flee towards Greece. Fortunately, unfortunately, it was just the time, just before the COVID-19. And when COVID-19 arrived, it was evident for Ankara that they had to stop this flow, because it could cause a lot of harm between the relations. And there are some countries which try to cooperate but a much deeper way. I think the most important in Egypt, but we have to mention currently, it's very important, currently Libya and Tunisia. But we have to keep in our mind also that they have, with the exception of Egypt, if we have a look at Tunisia and Libya, they have very limited capacity to stop illegal crossing. And just some words about the potential, what countries can get if blackmailing the EU. The new Global Europe initiative for the next budgetary term of the European Union, the EU will offer almost 80 billion euro for this cooperation, 80 billion euro. You can see the distribution here, and if you won't find any words about migration in this context, but if you have a more profound look, this making workplaces, digitalization, tackling climate change is actually aiming to reduce the potential of number of arrival. It's a huge amount of money. And a big portion of this money is not fixed. About 60 billion euros for certain project, and 20 billion is just the background for any emergency event. So this is the money which can be easily utilized for any actors. And last but not least, it's very important to, in the shadow of the Ukrainian war, to mention the geopolitical competition in the southern flank of Europe, NATO. Turkey, which is playing this stick and carrot politics, has a very strong presence in Libya, and there are many considerations that at one point perhaps Turkey can play the same game in Libya to opening the border for irregular migrants, what happened in the case Turkey. We have to mention the increasing Russian presence across economic groups and Wagner groups, the mercenary groups in Libya and Mali. And we shouldn't forget the whole Sahelian cases, which is come closer and closer to Europe. And I mentioned that currently mostly North African peoples coming, but considering the huge humanitarian and economic and political crisis in the Sahel, there's a definitely shift in the last years. So actually Europe has no other chance to try to cooperate somehow with these gatekeepers, which is ready to blackmail it if they don't get enough money. So I think my time is over, so thank you very much. And if you have any question at the end of the panel, I'm ready to answer for this. Thank you.